So a funny thing happened when I came home the other day. There were 5 cars at my neighbor's house because it is being sold. And of course, it's sold very quickly in today's environment. And I had to laugh because there was a toilet sitting out by the mailbox. Yeah, it was ours. Hey, y'all, this is Marla, the Green Home Coach. And I wanted to kind of check in with y'all and talk a little bit about maintenance. And that's exactly why there was a toilet sitting in our front yard. So anyway, so back to that story. Little toilet talk for you. Ha ha. So somebody came up to my husband and they said, "So why'd you replace the toilet?" And he goes, "Well, the handle broke." This guy just kind of looks at him like, "Are you nuts?" Okay, so that was not the full story. So here's the deal. We bought a spec home almost 5 years ago. Did not have the kind of plumbing fixtures in it that we really wanted, but we needed to get in here. It was good enough. You know, we all make trade-offs. So this was ours. But over time, we had trouble with the toilets. It would clog up. We broke toilet seats. That wasn't the toilet maker's fault because they were a different brand. But it was just really hard to keep clean. The porcelain just didn't clean well. I don't know if it was quality of the porcelain or it was very porous. I don't know what the deal was, but it did not clean well. So I loved the toilets. I know this sounds really weird, but I did. I loved the toilets that I had in my place back in St. Louis before I moved. And I've been wanting to put that particular one back in. And I know I try to kind of shy away from names, but I really liked this. This is a Kohler toilet. It's very reasonably priced. It's water sense. It's very low water using, and it's extremely efficient. It works really well. It's well engineered, just does what it's supposed to do. So anyway, so we went and bought one and got it installed, and hence the toilet sitting out by our mailbox. Now, I do not have a place here to recycle that toilet, which really makes me sad. There are some recycling facilities around the nation for porcelain, especially the porcelain throne, but not everywhere. That's something that's a lot harder to find, and we just don't have as many resources here in Oklahoma City for that. So I hope, should you need to replace a toilet, somebody will rescue it and make a planter out of it or something, and I hope it will find a good life here since it didn't get to be recycled. Okay, so here's the point. None of us are 100%. I'm not 100%. If I make 80%, even most of the time, I am elated. But we all can do a little bit better. So this new toilet that we brought in is going to last a super long time. It uses less water. It's not going to need a lot of cleaning product and stuff. So that's really awesome. So at least when you have to maintain, replace, or repair, or remodel, do it a level up. Do it a little bit better. That's exactly what we were able to do. And that's what I really try to do every time I need to do something, to change it up, to replace it. I talk about the re's, the replace, repair, redecorate, remodel, renovate. They're all the re's. Every time you do that, if you think just a little bit, do a little bit more research, then you can make it a little better. So all of this repair, replace stuff is part of maintenance. Maintenance is super, super important around our homes. Matter of fact, it is one of the very greenest things you can do. Ha! You didn't expect that from me, did you? But maintenance preserves the life of whatever it is that you are maintaining. So the more we can do that routine maintenance on things around our home, the longer things will last. The longer things last, the fewer things end up in the recycling bin or in the trash bin, like our sad toilet had to. So the longer those things last, the better. That means fewer materials used. That means fewer things in our landfills. It means less hassle for you, even more importantly, and less cost. So taking a little bit of time to do that regular maintenance really does add up. And I know this is being recorded in May. It has been so chilly. I still haven't even pulled out shorts, but it is spring. So spring maintenance is definitely one that we need to do. I hope you've already got a lot of yours done and you're actually out piddling around outside in the garden, getting the patio furniture hosed off. So also a great time to do that exterior inspection. And if you have been listening to our podcast for a while, then you have likely met my friend Tina Gleisner from Home Tips for Women. And she is my maintenance go-to. And I am actually pulling an episode out of the archives with Tina talking all about spring maintenance. And I'm putting a few of our other episodes about maintenance in the show notes. So be sure to check it out. I'm telling you, Tina knows how to rock out maintenance. I love the way she approaches it with her 3-tiered approach. Check it out. There's also details in my book if you have that. I don't remember which chapter, but Tina actually collaborated with me on the chapter about maintenance in my book. So listen in, get ready to rock out the end of your spring with some super maintenance. And hey, let's all go out and enjoy the nice warm weather. Enjoy the episode. Living green or sustainably is about more than saving on your electric bill and doing your part to protect natural resources. It is about a safer and healthier life for you and your family without sacrificing style, quality, or budget. This is a movement to provide all of us with clean air to breathe and water to drink, safe, healthy food to eat and places to live, and energy to run the places where we live, learn, play, and work. The Everyday Green Home Podcast helps you get the value of green for you, your family, and your community. Whether it's green homes, green living, or the people who make it happen, join me, Marla Esser Close, to learn how green and sustainability practices and products work for you and our world. Welcome to the Green Gab. This is Marla, the Green Home Coach, and I am so excited to bring back Tina Gleisner, whom we talked with in, a few weeks ago, a month ago. I've lost all track of time. But Tina, welcome back.
Thank you.
And Tina and I have known each other for quite some time, but her star appearance here today is for your deep, deep knowledge about home maintenance and empowering women in particular to be able to take care of our own homes. What did I miss? Anything else?
No, exactly. And the most important point about taking care of your home is that you're the chief home organizer. I want to say home manager, whatever. And the important thing isn't that you have to do everything yourself. It's that your job, your number one priority, is to see that the important things get done. And that's something that I think a lot of homeowners miss is they think doing home maintenance is only about doing things themselves. And gosh, even I would not attempt to tune up my HVAC system.
Right.
There are just certain jobs that are very, very critical, and we don't have the tools, we don't have the experience, and shouldn't even attempt them.
So that's a really great place to start, because today we really wanted to focus in on spring maintenance. And in particular, spring's a great time to do a lot of things on the outside of our homes.
Right.
And I can see in particular where a lot of the tasks, at least on the outside of my home, are things that I am going to want somebody that's really an expert to do. So I can see how that could really play a part.
Yeah. So I know in the last podcast, you highlighted how you really like the way I organize my checklist to basically start by inspecting things. And there's a reason for that, because you really can plan which activities you're going to do, who you need to hire to come in and help you once you understand the list of projects that needs to be done. So by going around and inspecting things, you can build that list, and that's where you should start. Then you get to segue between those things that are simpler, cheaper maintenance tasks to minimize your home costs versus just keeping an eye on things that you know you're going to have to update a few years down the road. So you can start saving for a new roof now rather than waiting for a major leak and then panic.
So here in Oklahoma, everybody just waits for a major storm and then they call the insurance adjusters and the roofing companies. And or a big wind event, the roofing companies are out in droves. But in all fairness, it takes a roofing expert to investigate and to look at the roofs and to make sure that they are or are not damaged. So
exactly. For roofing, especially, the fun thing I've told people for years is, especially if you're not comfortable on a ladder, you really don't want to get up there and with the chance that you might fall. So if you can get far enough away from your roof, I used to say start with binoculars, but everybody's got such great phones now. Take photographs of your roof. Number one, you can then get on your computer and you can blow that photograph up and you can see a lot more detail than you're ever going to see in person. And that's also going to give you an opportunity to get familiar with what a good roof looks like. And you can even compare this year's photos to last year's photos.
Ooh, that's a great
Start to see a difference. And really, for most roofs, you're probably fine if you just do some spot checking every year, unless you find something on the ground. If you find some shingles on the ground after a big storm, obviously you've got to dig more. But until you get to about 10 years, you probably don't really have to have anybody go up and look at the roof. And then, you're going to start to ask them, what are they seeing? And the whole point is you want to get a sense from them, how many years do they think the roof has left? Is it 5 years, which might be true if you live on the coast, or if you live where there's really nasty weather all the time, your roof is not going to last as long. So it may only last 15 years. Other places where you don't have a lot of sunlight, you don't have a lot of nasty weather, your roof could go 20, 25 years. And then there are differences. If you've got what are called 3-tab shingles, they're thinner. Architectural shingles. Architectural will last longer as well.
And there's different classes of shingles. So I've gotten to know there's an organization here called National Women in Roofing, and I've actually gotten to know some of the women in roofing.
Yeah.
But they've helped me to understand better the different classes of shingles and what insurance will pay for and what's worth upgrading. So one of the things I think I really took away from that conversation is when you get a trusted expert in to help you with this, ask a lot of questions and see what else is possible, because you may be able to upgrade your roof so that you don't have issues in the future as easily, and it may not be a big cost differential. That was a big surprise to me, but sometimes it is. So ask questions.
Absolutely. And then there is a time when you do need a new roof. It's really never a good idea to put a second layer of roofing shingles on top of what you have. And the reason for that is that there may be hidden damage on the plywood underneath, which is called, and the only way you're going to find that damage is when you rip off the existing shingles. So even though some people think they can cut costs that way or avoid that nasty dumpster, it's not a good idea.
And take heart, folks. Many communities have a Roof to Roads program where they recycle asphalt shingles into using them for asphalt into roads. So not all communities offer this program, but if you are taking off an old roof, look into it. There might be a way to recycle your shingles in your community. So check it out.
That's a great tip, and I didn't know about that.
There, so we've exchanged tips today. So what else should we be inspecting on the outside in the spring?
So we've started with the roof, which is great, because I usually like to start up top and then work my way down the side of the house. The next thing that I always worry about, only from running a handyman business, is there's so much wood rot. And so I like to focus on what wood trim is on your house. Because we don't have a lot of houses left that are wood siding. So there may be, some shaker houses, but they're pretty rare and they're mostly in New England. But around your windows, around your doors, you have a lot of wood trim, even your deck and a front porch if you have one. And those are the areas that you really want to look at and make sure that there's no wood rot starting, because if you can catch a problem early, that's the kind of small repair job that a homeowner can do. It's really just a matter of, the paint is starting to peel off, so you can sand a windowsill and repaint it. And I always tell people, paint is not about being pretty outside. Paint is about protecting your home, and in this case, protecting the wood.
Right.
To water out, which is what causes the damage.
We had a house in St. Louis where our back door would get a lot of the rain on it, and it would pool up down at the bottom of the door jamb.
Right.
And it was eventually rotted out, the door frame, just at the very bottom, because we didn't catch it. And there was never a puddle of water there when we went to go look around the house. And we finally realized that there wasn't a covered. Okay, folks, so this is a great reason to have your windows and exterior doors covered with an awning or a roof overhang, because it helps to keep some of the water off and the wind and the sun to protect your wood. So all this stuff works together, right?
Yeah. So in terms of the exterior, the two biggest problem areas are windowsills. If the water doesn't roll off the windowsill fast enough, and the reason it doesn't is because soot accumulates on that windowsill, that fine dust, and it holds the water in there. That's why those.
Seriously, wow.
Yeah. And the other place is under an exterior door. Like typically you're going to do a step up from a concrete pad or from a porch. You're going to take one step up, and that vertical wood under that door is one of the first things to go. And that's because I like to call it's a splashback. The water hits the concrete and it bounces back up onto that wood. So it's getting a lot more than just the rain coming down vertically. It's getting all that splashback that's hitting the ground and bouncing back up.
Wow.
And then if you get the wood rot down there under your door and you don't catch it fast enough, then that wood rot, that moisture starts to climb up your door jambs. And, the longer the problem goes, the more costly the repair, to where you can't do it yourself anymore. I have an article on my website that actually goes through and shows the different costs based on like 5 different levels of window wood rot, from where you can fix it yourself to where you can kind of scoop out the wood that is bad and fill it in with Bondo, to where the whole window frame is gone and you have to replace the window. And I try to give people an idea of how it can go from a very inexpensive to a very costly repair.
Yeah, we'll put that link in the show notes so that people can go check that out. That would be great.
Okay. And I also, Marla, I have a series on wood rot on my website. So I've got wood rot with doors, wood rot with decks, all different areas. So I'll give you the link for that as well.
That's great. We'll have lots of great resources. Exteriors, we want to look at our roof. Then we want to look at the wood that's on the exterior of our homes for wood rot. So windows, door jambs. I typically, like if you have exterior trim on your house, I'm imagining, at least looking at it, is always a good idea. But I don't see where it would have as much potential to hold water.
It's not as bad as the windowsill and the doors, but it happens.
Okay. Well, and here we don't do gutters. They don't put gutters on new houses.
All right.
Standard. So I have to wonder if there's potential for water damage at the edge of the roof line.
That typically doesn't happen because the way the roof is constructed, if it was done correctly, you've got something called drip edge. So under that lowest row of shingles, you've got a strip of metal that is supposed to keep the water. And it's funny, it's got some zigzags in it so that it's directing the water that's going to follow the path of least resistance and gravity, but it's directing that water down and away from the roof deck. And that drip edge then sits in front of, so when it comes down, you also don't want the water there curling up and going behind the drip edge. So the drip edge sits and butts up to the fascia, which is another piece of metal that is a vertical strip right below the edge of the roof.
And this is why flashing and so many of the details in flashing, for you guys that don't know, is a piece of metal where different parts of the roof intersect, like where you have different angles or where a roof meets a wall. But having that flashing in there helps to get all the water off your roof and prevent problems from happening.
Yeah. And flashing is really the concept because drip edge is one type of flashing. They've got lots of different names for flashing depending on where it's being used.
True. And there's a whole other conversation we could have.
Yes, it's very confusing. It's not even worth trying to explain. I do try to define it on the website somewhere, but.
Okay. Hey, since we've kind of gotten around the outside of the house, let's take a quick
But wait a minute. For listeners, one of the things I try to do is I try to come up with visual illustrations of things. So when you think of flashing, think of a raincoat, and that if your hat or umbrella doesn't protect between your raincoat and your neck, you're going to get water dripping down your neck.
That's a good analogy.
So flashing is like the brim on a rain hat, and it's meant to, keep the water away from getting you wet. So I like to do that. Like the funniest one, when I started running my handyman business, I had a really hard time with the fascia board, which is the vertical piece under the roof line, versus the soffit, which is horizontal. And so here are the funny ways. Fascia is what you stare at face to face to look when you're looking at it. And soffit is like the sofa you're sleeping on. It's just, they're all these
great.
There are all these funny words, and it's really hard to remember them. Sometimes I haven't used it in a while. I forget them too. And it's like, well, it's an S and it's what is it?
That is too funny. Well, hey, let's take a quick breather and we'll be right back and move to the other parts of the house that you need to be inspecting this spring.
Okay.
Maintaining and documenting so you can rely on your home. So this is an excerpt from my book. This is Marla Close. I am the Green Home Coach, and I had the beautiful opportunity to write Living Green Effortlessly Simple Choices for a Better Home. One of the things that I really love talking about in here is the importance of homeowner education, documentation, and maintenance, because this is all reliant about how well our home serves us rather than are we serving it. So I wanted to just take a brief moment and do a quick reading from my book in chapter 6. As a homeowner, you've taken on a big responsibility. The good news is that there are many of us out here offering you a hand with learning what to do, keeping track of what you need to do, and documenting all that you have done. Maintenance tasks are part of every homeowner's life, whether you live in a castle or a cave. It's an investment of your time that pays back huge dividends and saves you lots of money down the road, and makes you money when it's time to sell your house. So why do maintenance? It's the smart thing to do. As you can see in this book, there's maintenance checklists on page 94 if you've got the book. Documentation keeps you organized and sane. When you keep track of what you need to do and write down what you have done, you can sleep well at night knowing that the roof is not going to leak and the air conditioner will keep on blowing sweet, cool air. Want to read more? You can get my book at livinggreenbook.com. Thanks again. Marla Close, the Green Home Coach, signing out. Okay, we are still gabbing with Tina about spring home maintenance, and we were getting so into it off of the official podcasting media. I said, hey, wait, we got to say this for real to everybody. But what we were talking about, Tina, that I think was perfect is there's so much maintenance in the spring particularly that really needs to happen outside, and that change of season and so many things happening. So a lot of the inside maintenance is the kind of things you would do quarterly anyway, right? Like checking.
Right. Yeah. So the big emphasis, there are two things you really want to emphasize in the spring. One is if there was any damage to your home through the winter, you want to find it and deal with it. But the other thing that's equally important is that you're now going to be spending a lot more time outside, you and your family, and you want to make sure that everybody's going to be safe. So it has to do with, anywhere that people walk, any handrails, any lighting that you depend on, all of those things need to just be checked. And those can be really, really simple. You just want to make sure that, the floodlights are going on, or maybe you finally are so frustrated it's time to put motion sensor floodlights in,
right.
And old-fashioned ones. Decks tend to be a nuisance from the perspective of owning a handyman business because you need 2 or 3 dry days before you can stain and seal a deck. And so you don't want to leave it to the week before a graduation party because the weather's probably not going to cooperate.
I gotcha. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, a lot of people love, some people hate, but you've got your yard cleanup. Any branches that have come down, if you need to remulch, if you didn't get your lawnmower tuned up over the winter, which is actually the better time to do it because it's cheaper because those people don't have enough work and they'll give you a good deal.
And you're not using it anyway. At least we're not in the winter.
No. Oh, right. So if you can go park it at, the small equipment, repair place for 3 months, that's perfect. It frees up space in your...
There you go.
So you really want to go through and make sure that, everything in your yard. And one of the tips I use in different places, more for the holidays, but it works just as well here, is you look at your house a certain way. Like you drive into your garage and you walk inside the house. But when you have company, they're not doing that. I sometimes tell people, drive by your house and look at it the way a friend or a neighbor looks at it, because they're going to see different things than you see. And the same thing is if they park in the driveway or on the street and they walk up to your front door, that's when maybe there's a light out that you don't notice because you never go in the front door.
That makes a lot of sense.
So
I'm walking, and there's parts of the back of my house that I don't walk in for weeks at a time in the winter because I don't need to go back there. So that's one of the first things we do once we get that first nice weekend and we're starting to take things out and move into spring mode is we walk around the house together.
Exactly.
See what's what.
So, and then there are some things, depending on where you live, that maybe it's easier to inspect inside. So you may find water damage in an unfinished attic that you're not necessarily going to see when you're trying to inspect your roofing shingles from the outside. So, and that's where the checklist really helps because it just kind of gives you lots of different ways to look for problems and fix them.
And if you're having to replace things, a lot of times there may be something that's better or more advanced than what you're replacing. So this is a great opportunity to upgrade if you do have to replace things that you're finding.
Yeah. So maybe you haven't gotten gutters before. Maybe they were too aggravating. The cost of gutters has come way down as the seamless gutters have become much more popular. And there they drive the truck right to your house and they actually measure and make the gutters right there. And
wow.
Yeah. The seamless gutters are much easier to maintain because they don't have all the seams with all the nuts and, where they can fall apart. So that's something to consider.
Now you're going to make me want to go outside and look at my gutters because I don't know if they're seamless or not.
I don't have any gutters on my new house yet because the builder wanted way too much money for a really short run in the front. And honestly, I don't know what I'm doing in the backyard yet. But here's an example. The whole point of gutters is really to control the flow of rainwater coming off of your roof and how it hits the ground of your house. And so what I did as a temporary solution was I walked around the house and I saw where I had too much water coming down, typically where you have valleys in the roof. Mm-hmm. I went out and I bought the little gutter guards that, you usually have a downspout dumping the water into. And so I put a bunch of, 3 or 4 different, the gutter guards on the ground and made sure that the water hitting there was sloping down and away from the house.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really good if you can, get the downspouts so they're 5 feet away from the house, so they're not coming back on the house. The water's not the downspout. The water's not coming back on the house.
Right. That's an important thing. People don't talk about it. It was really kind of strange when I was hoping that I would have a really nice lawn at my new house, and I literally raked the entire lawn to get rid of all of the stones and garbage that the contractors had left there over the 9 months they took to build the house. And I was sorely disappointed because they just kind of threw the sod down. They didn't place it there, so there were gaps and overlap and everything. But the important point here is that I was very conscious when I was doing the raking that I needed a small slope away from the house.
Yep.
And, when I asked the building supervisor if I had done a good enough job, he gave me this blank stare. Oh my God. And, and I understand the house is in Florida. It's on a slab. There's no basement that can flood if water pools up next to the house. But I still think it's a good idea to get the water away from the house.
Always.
Yeah. So
you don't want your slab sitting in a pool.
Right. Because most people think that, concrete, it's solid and that
it wicks.
It does. Concrete is porous. And
it's called a capillary action, if you guys want the technical term, where it sucks water up.
Yeah. So please don't assume that you don't have to worry about concrete. You do.
Yes, ma'am. You are absolutely on par with that. So let's see. What else on the outside of our homes do we need to
look at your doors and your windows? I have this funny thing. I call it the sponge test. And it's basically, we all have 10 fingers. I usually use one of my pointer fingers. Just go around and kind of try to push the wood on your doors and windows. And it should hold firm, because if it doesn't, if you push and you all of a sudden realize there's a little indentation, that's telling you that you've got some wood rot going on there, and you better do something about it quickly.
And covering it up isn't going to help. You need to
because if you just cover it up, you're leaving the moisture in there, and it's going to continue to grow in all directions. So, but if you catch it soon enough, it's a simple fix. The other thing is you can check and see maybe it's time to re-caulk your windows. Maybe the weather stripping should be replaced on your doors. And also, one of the typical things we need to do in this spring is replace one or more screens in our windows or a door. They tend to get torn even, when you're careful putting them away for the winter. I'm still fighting. I have 4 screen doors on the back of my new house, and I feel like one of them always has a hole in it. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah. Do you know the 5 myths of green homes? These 5 things you probably believe about green homes may be costing you thousands of dollars. Which myth do you hear the most? I'm Marla Close, the Green Home Coach, and I want you to have 5 myths of green homes so you can learn how this knowledge can help you get more business and set yourself apart. If you're ready to learn even more about green homes and features, check out my What Makes a Green Home Green audio program. This program will help you find and sell the value of green homes and features in your clients' homes and projects. Check it out at greenhomecoach.com and click on the link for 5 myths of green homes. Again, that's greenhomecoach.com and click on 5 myths of green homes. And this is also a good time. I know, like Scott and I will clean the windows, and with the Oklahoma wind and all the red dirt we have here, and plus we're still in a neighborhood that has new construction still going on. So that's been a good time for us to clean the windows. We can do it. Although at one of my former houses in St. Louis, we had somebody come and do it, especially because we had 3 stories on the back of the house, and I didn't on a tall ladder. That's a great thing too. And getting the dirt, one of the things I learned is if I could get the dirt out of the sills and, all in the grooves of the window, then I was more apt to open the windows up on a nice sunny spring day and air out.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So it wasn't blowing the dust all over the place quite as badly.
Right. So other practical things, you want to check you're outside, you're going to start some gardening or your irrigation's going to get turned on. You want to inspect your hose bibs, your shut-off valves. You just want to make sure that everything's okay, that, you can shut the water off when you want to shut it off, because every once in a while, the last thing you need to do is discover a frozen pipe an hour before company arrives.
But that's the way it always happens. It's like the toilet always breaks right before the holidays, right?
Well, yeah, but you can try to avoid it by inspecting things first.
This is true. And inspection is not a guarantee, but it certainly does reduce your risk.
Yeah.
And if you are inspecting and still going la, 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 and ignoring it, it's still not going to get better, folks. You have to take some action.
Right. And I mean, so really, what you're doing is you want to be as efficient in your use of water as you can. So you don't want, sprinkler systems with leaks. So a good thing there is you want to monitor how much water you're using, because that's another way to spot a problem.
Absolutely.
Which I did find my brand new irrigation system, all of a sudden, the reclaimed water part of the bill went up like $100 a month. And I was like, what's going on here? There was a broken to the ground. And the same thing, you also want to be efficient with energy. So it's better to get your HVAC system tuned up before it's air conditioning season, because when that happens, all of a sudden you get backed up and have to wait a week or 2 in 90 plus degree temperatures. The other thing you can do is it's time to switch the fan. So most fans operate in both directions, and in the winter you want to take the warm air from your ceiling and push it back down, and in the summer you want to take that warm air below and bring it up and get rid of it. Move it away from yourself.
So most fans have a little switch up on the top above the fan blades, and you just move that switch to the other position.
Okay.
Right? Good time to dust your ceiling fan too.
That's true.
There's a reason that everybody kind of laughs because, spring cleaning, but a cleaner home is easier to maintain, and it helps your stuff to work better, and it helps maintain it longer. I finally got that through my thick head and decided that, cleaning was a good thing because it was prolonging the life of my home and all the stuff in it. And there's lots of opportunities for that. So what's your one big tip for the spring? Because we're just about out of time.
I think, just from my days running a handyman business and knowing where those problems are, between 10 and 20% of the work we did was all related to wood rot. It was great for my business, but it wasn't for the homeowners. It's a scary, scary thing, especially, working with homeowners that don't have the money, and gosh, they finally realized that their basement is open to the outdoors because of how much wood rot they have. That's a very, very scary experience. And then you're there trying to give them choices on how do you button up the house temporarily until they can save enough money to make the needed repairs. It's a very scary thing.
Yeah. So keeping your wood painted or finished in some way is a good way to prevent these problems, and then inspect frequently so you can catch them as early as possible should there be a problem.
Right.
Okay.
Just say, again, we started with this is your job as a homeowner is to make sure that the work gets done. Don't think you have to do it all yourself, and work at finding a routine that fits your personality, your schedule, your budget. Some people, it's just one weekend and you do everything you can, and then whatever you can't finish in that one weekend, that's what you basically hire a handyman to help with. Other people, they have, a half day, and per week, they spread over a month. Other people, they want to go through things more systematically. I say, hey, you don't have to do everything every year. You can kind of go around your house and do one side each year, but understand that the side of your house that gets the most sunlight and the most wind and other bad weather is going to suffer more damage. So maybe you do that side every other year, and the safe sides you do less frequently.
Great tips.
Finding something that fits you and your lifestyle. Something
that you can do. Because taking action is the most important part.
And I have lots of goofy ideas on my website to try to motivate homeowners to take care of their homes. In fact, on one article, I always thought it was fun is and the last thing on your checklist should be dinner out or something to set done your homeowner task.
You're rewarding yourself.
Exactly.
Well, Tina, as always, you are chock full of information. For our listeners, website is hometipsfor women.com. Lots and lots of good information. Tina is a treasure trove of information. Check it out. We will put links in the show notes to some of the resources that we specifically talked about on this episode. And we cannot tell you how much we appreciate you listening in today and appreciate your support of the Green Gab podcast. So, Tina, I think we're signing off on another Green Gab today.
Okay. It was fun chatting.
Have a great green day, everyone.
Thanks. You too.
That wraps this episode of the Everyday Green Home Podcast. Get the show notes with all the resources mentioned in this episode. And be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Ready to get started? Get more information, how-tos, and resources in my private Facebook group, Love Your Everyday Green Home. See you there. And remember that living a little better and a little greener is easier than you think.